Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Weekly Pint. This is not a show. If you're just joining us for the first time, it's a happy hour. That is the entire point of all of this. It's to hang out together and have a drink together. Part of that experience of having a drink together is the conversation. So you are supposed to take part in the conversation. If you are, or I guess you have to be finding it on some kind of platform where you can type in on the chat. And do that. Talk to the people that are around you. If you happen to find yourself on a different platform than somebody else, you will still be able to see what everybody is saying right there on the screen, as long as I always remember to put it up there. If you want to get even crazier about it, though, you can call into the show. That we have what we call the drunk line, which is right there, 567-70-DRINK. Also 567-703-7465 if that's easier for you to remember. And you can do it that way. But we just kind of sit around and we shoot the shit. The conversation could go anywhere. We usually talk about some label approvals that have come through the TTB in the last week. We talk about what's going on in life, in dad life, in gnome life, and all of the little pieces in between. So sometimes it's really exciting and sometimes it's really not. But either way, the point is to hang out with each other. So thank you for joining us here. For those of you who are regulars, welcome back. Everybody feel free to chime in. Tell me what you're drinking. Julia says she is drinking a Hop Bee Honey Double IPA from Land Grant. John is drinking Das Henker. I drank a couple Oktoberfests earlier with dinner and with in full on family mode. We drew some pictures, me and my oldest, and colored, and I drank a bunch of Oktoberfest because I've got a whole cooler full of them upstairs. I finished the Oktoberfest Quest 2021 this weekend. Congrats to Sonder for taking home the medal, even though it's not really a medal yet. I'm working on something that maybe could be fun with that, but and so I have now normally, or I shouldn't say normally, the last couple times what I've done is for the finals I invite one or two people over, we sit around, we drink a bunch of Oktoberfest beers, and we figured out that way. That didn't work out this year, just timing. I couldn't get a good read on when I was going to be able to actually schedule this finals. It wasn't even a podcast episode because I couldn't get it onto the calendar properly. So it was just a live Instagram video. And because of that, it was just me by myself. Well, it wasn't me by myself. It was me by myself on the back patio, quickly followed by our Halloween party that we throw every year, which meant we had a bunch of people over. So instead of going out and buying a bunch of beer, I filled the cooler with some Taft's Cold Boy, their light lager, and then every single Oktoberfest that you can find in Cincinnati. It's kind of fun. I enjoy. I do want to crack up at a beer, but I enjoy that kind of experience of you have a cooler that is filled to the top with ice. You can't even see the cans that are down under that top layer of ice. You got to shove your hand down in there and just kind of grab a can and then see what it is. That was really fun throughout the night. Broke out the beer caramelizer stick and threw it in the fire pit while we were sitting out in the driveway passing out candy, and caramelized a bunch of Oktoberfest all night. Oktoberfest doesn't caramelize as good as some other styles I've learned. I mean, it should, but it's not bad. It's not as good as some of those other ones. I'm doing a lot of very hard research to figure out what is the best. Julia says, or an ice if you're that kind of person to hide one in the cooler. Not typically that kind of person to hide one in the cooler. Not typically, especially not with that many great Oktoberfests in there. Somebody did bring a either a 6-pack or a 12-pack or something of Yingling's light lager, the Flight. I still haven't tried it, but they left them in the cooler, so there's some Flights tucked in there with all the Oktoberfest beer. So that's kind of like getting iced, right? Let me crack open a beer first. I'll let you guys decide what I should drink. If you listened to this week's episode of the Brew Cast, I do have some more of Mad Tree's new one, this Holidays. I could dive into that. I've also got the Barbecue Rub Porter from 50 West, the best of times, or one that I've been really wanting to try. Finally getting to it in the rotation, Bluegrass Monday from Sonder. So you guys tell me what to crack open, and and that's what we'll drink, or what I'll drink. Unless you have one too, then you can drink it too. But you probably don't have one of these because I don't think anybody does, because I'm special. That show was a lot of fun. Sean says Bluegrass Monday. All right. Everybody else took too long. That's what we're drinking because I'm thirsty. We'll start off talking about the Brew Cast. I lost the beginning. Half of the show, not the half of the show. It was like 5 minutes maybe that I lost because I'm an idiot. But it was a really fun episode to record. We did. We spent a lot of time talking about a lot of different things. I didn't stir this up before I poured it, and I saw at the very end there's a whole bunch of stuff settled down in here. Now it's going to be 2 different colors. There it goes. It's settling. As Shift Beers would say, she chonky. I'll have to top this off after I drink a little bit, because there's just a whole bunch of blueberry and granola maybe. So if you don't know about this beer, hang on, let me keep trying to pour it here. This is Bluegrass Monday by Sonder Brewing Company, a sour ale with blueberry, lactose, and maple granola. And that's kind of all it says. They don't tell us a lot on the can. For I still like a little bit of some kind of a description on my cans, especially since Sonder is, this brand that is supposed to be about the stories behind all the beers. I want to know some of the story, and I don't even think they did a podcast about this one, did they? I mean, they mentioned it on a podcast, but they didn't really go into detail about the beer. And they certainly don't tell me how to find a podcast episode where they did anymore. Let's see. John says, "What is this? The Mad Tree? What's the Mad Tree? The winter seasonal. It is called Holidays. It's an IPA with spruce tips. I don't have a release date on it yet. It's coming very soon though, and it's delicious. There are 3 gnomes around on the can. I don't know if you guys have ever noticed that about Mad Trees. You're not going to be able to see them. My lighting's terrible here. There's one. They hide gnomes on their cans a lot. It says, over the river, through the woods, to the beer fridge we go. IPA with spruce tips, 6.8%. Yeah, it's a wintry IPA. Marco is with us finally. He's having a truth and getting to-go food. Yeah, so now the beer is a whole different color than it was when I first poured it, because the blueberry has all settled in. All right, let me try this here. Oh yeah, that's good. The maple granola comes through a lot more than I thought it was going to do. Not overly tart, like some things kind of can be these days. Just super refreshing. That's good. I like that. John says, wonder what that means for thunder snow. Yeah, I don't know. I imagine, so Mad Tree is for good or for bad, and we talked about this at the very beginning of the interview, the beginning of what you guys got of the interview, where, a lot of people sometimes will get upset if something isn't in cans, or if there's certain styles that they don't get enough of. But the great thing about Madry, one of my favorite things about Madry is that if you have a favorite beer like that, chances are probably it'll make an appearance in the tap room, even if it doesn't make it into cans. And I think that might be the case with Thunder Snow this year. Don't quote me on that, but how many winter seasonals can you put on a shelf? And unfortunately for all of us who like a variety of styles on the shelf, consumers who walk into to Kroger and places like that really don't care about variety. They want their staples, and maybe a seasonal here and there, and that's kind of all that they're buying, especially from a place like Madtree or Rheingeist or whoever it is. So sometimes you won't see some of the things that we want to see. So whatever that means for Thunder Snow, I don't know. That is a solid non-answer because I just don't know the answer. Marco's having new phone issues, but he is now straight. Okay. You want to jump into some label approvals, or do you want to do kind of a couple, I don't know, news articles that we could talk about? Wolf's Ridge announced a 24 Days of Christmas pack. It could have several holiday beers in it. How many holiday beers do you guys want? I mean, we talked about this last year. I did a Christmas beer episode. I don't think I'm going to do one this year, although I don't know that for sure yet. John said they gave me pumpkin, so I can't complain too much. That's the thing. Like for a brewery that could certainly get away with not doing a lot of seasonal releases, they do really good about getting seasonal stuff in cans that maybe they don't have to, I guess. All right, let's do a couple news articles and then we'll jump into the label approvals. There's a couple this is not local news. This is just kind of bigger beer news. A couple articles that popped out to me that some of them are a little more applicable locally and some of them aren't. But let's start with Stone. So Stone this week announced, they have a tap room out in Napa, and they, like a lot of those kind of places, had some trouble during COVID. They had to lay off the staff and everything, and then opened it back up. They, however, didn't want to pay their rent to the people that they leased the space from because COVID, and they said they needed a break. The current owner of the building, it's some kind of investment group or something, is now trying to get them evicted from their tap room because they have not paid that rent since November of 2020. So they're some $200,000 plus behind on their rent. Stone says that it's okay because it's hard times and we're supposed to be able to have exceptions during hard times. I'll get there, Marco, about the luck that Stone seems to have with their tap rooms. Let's see. I'm going to look at the article here and see if there's anything I'm missing from that part of the story. Stone hasn't paid its estimated $40,000 monthly rent since November of 2020. The partners that own the building are saying that despite Napa County now having fewer COVID-related restrictions, they just don't want to pay their rent anymore. They owe $211,273 in back rent. Earlier this year, Stone filed a lawsuit because that's their thing, alleging breach of contract and other causes, which is why they say they're not paying their rent. Um, let's see. An attorney for Stone Brewing says that their contract includes a provision that protects the tenant from events outside their control, such as the COVID-19 pandemic. The partners that own the building disagree. Stone's excuse is that COVID somehow impedes its ability to pay rent, said one of the partners. This is a good quote here. The makers of the appropriately named Arrogant Bastard beer have simply decided to stop paying rent on the Napa building. While at the same time, the company continues to make beer, distribute beer, sell other brewery swag, sell food, fully operate the patio, and is permitted to operate the upstairs dining area to the maximum allowed. So yeah, Stone. The property owner said they need that money to pay their mortgage on the historic building. The partners generate revenue only from the building, it noted. Stone decided to stop paying rent with no notice. Yada, yada, yada. So Stone's got this brewery. It's still open. It's still operating. And yet they just decide that they shouldn't have to pay rent. It unfortunately seems like par for the course in a lot of different ways for Stone of some of the taproom woes. They obviously opened in Berlin, and that didn't go well. When did that open? So Napa opened in 2018. Let's see. It doesn't give me a date here, and I'm not going to look it up. But they had their brewery in Berlin that failed after 3 years. Then they sold that to BrewDog. They also had a tap room in Shanghai that had to close. And then company-wide, they laid off some 300 people, which, okay, COVID, you're going to have to lay off a lot of people. I'm not going to cite that as a surprise, but so them having to close tap rooms for various reasons is not shocking to me. Them deciding to sue the people that own the building because they say they shouldn't have to pay their rent because these people are in breach of contract for not letting them not pay their rent. That's how I understand it. Is also very Stone. You guys have, obviously everybody's familiar with the Keystone lawsuit where they are suing Keystone for using the word stone in their marketing. And then at the same time going after several small breweries and distilleries across the country that have Stone in the name. Sean said, I was reading through the comments on that story, and the best one was, is that the company that makes Keystone? It's shocking to me, sad, maybe is a better way to put it, that this company, this Stone Brewing, which, for so long was this big champion of craft beer, this face for this new world of beer that was taking over everything, can change. I guess they really haven't changed. It just, there is a new light being shined on them with who they really are personality-wise. It's sad to see that they're kind of jerks. It's not shocking, but it's sad to see. So I did want to talk about that one again. It's not anything local. It's not related to anything here, but yeah. Zach says, I listened to your Matry podcast and loved it. I think I missed the opening date for their location in OTR. Do you know when it is? They gave, I think they said spring. I quickly corrected them and said spring-ish. Spring-ish. So early-ish next year is the planned date. But with all that stuff, it never happens on time. Nothing works the way it's supposed to. So Lee says next is Rolling Rock because Rock and Stone are so similar. It wouldn't surprise me. Narcissist much. Sean says it's crazy to think Stone could be where BrewDog is if tax breaks would have been given. That's probably definitely true. Yeah, nothing would shock me anymore. Julia says, we stopped by Brewdog in Columbus and had a West Coast IPA that was more opaque than a strawberry banana smooge. I don't, if somebody just puts IPA on a tap list and I order it, I don't care which way it goes. I don't care if I get it and it's crystal clear and, dank, piney hops. I also don't care if it comes and it's looks like orange juice and is fruity and soft and whatever. It's just an IPA. It can go either way. I would like to know which way it was going to go before I ordered it, but no fault. But if you call it a West Coast IPA or if you call it a New England, it has to look a certain way. In addition to taste a certain way. If you call it a juicy IPA, I don't care what it looks like. It can look either way, but it's got to have some of those juicy hops. And if you call it a hazy IPA, it sure as hell better be hazy. That's where I stand on it. But if I order a West Coast IPA, it sure as hell better look like a West Coast IPA. That being said, I don't need it to be that way. I just, Marco says, I want to know, and I want it to be what you tell me it is. I'm okay with that. I don't need to know what it is ahead of time. I'm okay with it either way, but it needs to be what you told me it was. Zach says, are you going to be at both sessions of Bonks? Can't wait for November 20th. When will the full list of beers be for the event? I've seen a few so far on Cincy by the Pint's Instagram. Yeah, we've been slowly releasing the beers out each week. I usually release a couple on Wednesdays and Fridays, and then Merrill usually release a couple on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We are about a little over halfway through, I think, releasing all the beers. We should have them all done by the week before not the week of the event, but the week before that. Look at the calendar. So the end of next week, we should have them all unveiled. We are still waiting on one or maybe two kind of tasting approvals from a couple beers that we want to bring in, and then waiting on just confirmation on one, I think. So we have a couple that is still possibility that we might be able to get and might not be able to. We'll see. And Julia says, I say don't release all the beers. Let there be a few surprises. And Zach says that's what the mystery machine is for. That is 100% what the mystery machine is for. I will not tell you what is going to be in there. I won't say I won't tell you anything that's in there. You might get a couple hints, but there will be surprises in there for sure. Utopias. Cans of Utopias. That would be bad. You guys did see that they announced at the Sam Adams Tap Room that they are doing a Utopias event, and it's actually very reasonably priced. I think it was like $15, if I remember right, for an ounce and a half. I think that's a very reasonable price for a tasting of Utopias. Zach says, I'm super curious about the first barrel age from Cartridge. It was delicious. I can tell you that. I don't think we've got a name for that one yet. I don't know if we get to name that one or if I think they're probably naming that one. We've gotten to name several of the beers that were going to be at the event because they haven't been released before. There's some that aren't going to be released anywhere. We are getting Urban gets announced this week. It's nothing too crazy. It's one that's fairly common. The wooden cask we're announcing this week also, and that one I'm really pumped about. Julia says, very important question. Will each brewery's table be run by staff from those breweries or by volunteers? I like to talk to people about their beers, and sometimes volunteers just aren't up to speed on what they're pouring. But mad respect for being there. I love volunteers. The answer is yes. We are trying to... volunteers will be pouring beer. Legally, that was the best way that we could make sure we were doing things right for everybody. And we're trying to make sure that every brewery has somebody from the brewery present at their booth to talk with people. I can't guarantee that everybody is going to do that because we can't force them to, because it's a festival. We're not paying them. Marco says sour pizza beer. There is no sour pizza beer. There's no pizza beer, period. There are, however, several sour beers and some funky beers and some farmhousey beers and some IPAs and some other IPAs and some barrel-aged stuff and some stouts and some porters, and it is going to be awesome. Yes, there will be people from breweries there. I cannot promise that every brewery will have either A, somebody there, or B, somebody that can actually talk about their beer. You might get a couple salespeople, might get a couple distributors that are not as great as other people. Noam also says no utopias, but we all know that there is always the possibility. There is always the possibility. I want to do a couple other news stories. I want to talk about this one though. So I say this one like you can see what I'm clicking on. Deschutes. Zach says you get a collector's pint glass or a 5-ounce collector's glass for the event to take home. Yes, you get I think the glass may be, the glass itself is 5 or 6 ounces, but there will be 4-ounce pours in it, ish. I guess it depends on who's pouring. But yes, you get a glass to take home, for sure. Okay, Deschutes has announced that they are officially closing their, and I have to word this very carefully, their tasting room in Roanoke. Back in 2016, and I'll tell you how this kind of connects to what's happening locally here. 2016, they announced that they were going to do this big East Coast facility, this East Coast production facility. And they bought like 40-something acres in Roanoke, and we're going to build this big facility with a big restaurant and a beer garden, and I have to sneeze, and do this big giant thing to help take over their production for this half of the country. And they, God, guys, I'm sorry. Then, boo, I've never been to their brewery. Whose brewery? I don't know what we're talking about. Deschutes. It's in Roanoke, Virginia. Well, it's in Bend, Oregon. I will tell you how it all connects to locally. They open a small, like, kind of a temporary tasting room in 2017. In Virginia, you have to make beer or have a restaurant to open a tasting room. They didn't have either with that one, so they got some kind of temporary permission to have this tasting room until 2023. I guess because they were building this brewery. Well, then in 2019, they announced that they're not going to do it anymore. They're not going to build this production facility. It's on permanent hold, I think is how they worded it. Well, they announced this week that it's the hold is way more permanent. They announced that there are currently no plans to open any, and they worded this very, very deliberate, I think. There were no plans for any East Coast facility until, currently there are no plans, and there won't be any plans until the Bend, Oregon brewery is back at capacity. It's like at 70% capacity right now. So until that hits capacity, they're not looking anywhere. They also go on in that same statement to say that not only are they not currently looking, they still own the land. And if that day comes that they do start looking again, they are still intending to use that for their facility. So if we can wrap this back to Cincinnati, I assume some of you guys have heard the rumors about Rivertown. Rivertown's been for sale for like 2 years or something, year and a half. up in Monroe, and it's a great facility. It's a big place. One of the rumors I heard was that Deschutes was looking at that for an East Coast facility after this Roanoke thing kind of fell through in 2019. Looks like that is probably not true in any way, shape, or form. In theory, according to how this was worded, you know how that goes. It could be a bunch of BS. So that's the Deschutes news. The other rumor that I heard recently, which is 100% rumor, if I'm saying it on here, and I'm telling you it's a rumor, there is no evidence that it's true, and I certainly don't know anything. But I did hear that Alltech, so Kentucky Bourbon Barrel Ale, might have also been interested in the Rivertown space. So don't know anything about it. Don't know if it's true. Doubt it's true. But I did hear that. So let's do some labels. There's a couple good ones here, and they are going to start out with booze. Man, that beer's good. But it's even just in my glass here, it's settling. I need a stir stick. All right, I'm going to pull the chat off the screen for just a minute so you guys can see the labels better. So give me a second. John says, I don't see any out-of-town brewery taking over Rivertown, too far out from downtown. Maybe, but it also depends what they are looking for. If they're looking for a hub, more so for distribution than for a tap room, it's definitely very possible. Especially if then they open up another tap room downtown, then it might make a lot of sense. All right, give me a second here. That and that and that. Gotta remember what I'm doing. Camp Denison Vodka. This is a March 1st product, which I know what you're thinking. They've already got a vodka. They've got Voltage. This is, I believe, a little different. This is distilled from wheat, so a wheated vodka. I think that is very different than the product that Voltage is. Could be wrong, but Zach says I've never been to Rivertown, but I have had only a few decent beers from them. Yeah, they are a shadow of what they used to be. They've had some beers over the years that have been incredible. They've had some beers over the years that have not been. They've had their ups and downs, we'll say. I maintain a high level of hope that somehow that brand can be resurrected and take back some of the history that they I'm sorry, my wife's texting me that they lost over the years. My youngest, the 1.5-year-old, is evidently still awake. My wife has been trying to put him to bed now for 2 hours. She said he yells if she moves at all. So my poor 4-year-old is just hanging out upstairs by herself, watching TV, probably eating a whole bunch of candy. Who knows? Lord, this is the life, guys. Zach said, I've heard they had some problems with their staff. No. Their staff was fine. They've had problems with other structure. Anyways, moving on with labels. I try to be positive about everything. This is a Myers Wine Cellars, so over in Silverton, I guess is technically where that is. Blue Ash, Silverton, somewhere around there. They're also a distillery. Not a lot of fanfare around them because they aren't as flashy, I guess, as some of the new craft distilleries tend to be. This is a vodka that they're putting out called Basic, 80 proof vodka, 6 times distilled. It is, as the back of it says, at Basic Vodka, it's about the liquor, not the label. American made from locally sourced Midwest corn, distilled 6 times for a really smooth finish. No impurities, no additives, no artificial flavors, just basic vodka. They're a huge winery. Like that's what's so crazy. They crank out not just some of that, kind of very Midwestern wine, tons of it. They put out a bunch of white label stuff, so contract wine, contract distilling. They make a ton of stuff, and nobody even realizes how much they're doing there. Zach says, I wish I was more of a vodka fan, but that Basic sounds interesting. Vodka is tough for me because I wouldn't consider myself a vodka fan, because to me the perfect vodka doesn't really taste like a whole lot. There's some that has some more flavor to it, and I find that a little more interesting, but I don't think that that's really what vodka is supposed to taste like, in my opinion. So I would not consider myself a vodka fan. I can appreciate it, but I'd much rather have something else. Rheingeist Flamingo Tropical IPA. Says, bright, juicy, and blushing with vivid fruit esters, this tropical IPA invites you for a creamsicle cruise over lupuline lagoons towards sherbet sunsets. Everyone knows that the best way to take the vibe to 11 is with a few well-placed flamingos. I love the colors on this. Rheingeist is absolutely kicking butt. And, Julia says, I like flamingo. Glad to see it's coming to cans. Me too. I think that this will be a welcome addition to their lineup. And then we've also got Raspy Cat. I feel like we already saw this one, though. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm losing my mind here. Let me look. Let's see. I keep a nice little record of all of the artwork from everybody. Let's see. Raspy Cat. Yes, we have. I wonder what changed on it here. Let's see. Raspy Cat. Okay. So they changed the other one. Oh, you're not going to be able to see this. It had for the up here the description where it says ale with natural flavors. Oh, and down here. So the other label that came through has ale with natural flavors colored with elderberry extract. And then on the front where it has fruited wheat beer, the previous label said fruited wheat beer with raspberry and hibiscus. So I don't know why that changed. I'm fascinated by the actual description is a little different too. I'm fascinated by the world of the TTB and when things get kicked back or things get changed or why, and it's very interesting to me. Zach wants to know, when is Rheingeist dropping Flamingo? I don't know. These are just label approvals. There's no these are through the federal TTB, so there's no story to go along with them. It's just labels. Marco said Flamingo was on tap at BC's Montgomery a while ago. This is a Taft's label. As you can see, it's not Taft's, but it is one of their contract beers. Non-alcoholic beer called Kit. From Kit Non-Alcoholic Brewing from Portland. On your mark, an American Blonde. contains less than 0.5%. So it's not really no alcohol. There is some alcohol in it. Julia says, holy crap, that's a busy label. Yes. And we have some Urban Artifact ones here. This is their Epicurean. We have a couple 5-spice cake with clove, fennel, cinnamon, star anise, peppercorn, cocoa nibs, vanilla, and lactose. Holy crap, that's a lot going on. I'll try it. This is, I think that this is where their creativity is really shining right now, is through some of these. Yeah, that one sounds pretty good. This next one, I'm not so sure about. Kimchi. I'm not a kimchi fan in life. And so far, all of the kimchi beers that they've done, I think they've done maybe 2 or 3 of them. I have not been a huge fan of. But this is an ale brewed with gochugaru. Is that right? Gochugaru peppers, ginger, miso, garlic, and green onion. Garlic and onions in beer. I find it interesting when people incorporate them and they create something that is tasty, but it's tough to do, to create that really savory flavor in a beer. But I'm sure Urban can knock it out of the park. And Pie Bird, that's a boysenberry Midwest fruit tart. We've definitely seen that one before. I think it was draft only, though. I don't think it's been in cans yet. But yeah, that's obviously going to be delicious. You guys know Urban and their Midwest fruit tarts. Zach says, I still don't get the whole non-alcoholic beers. Like, why? Well, it's a very complicated thing. There are times where I definitely, if I'm out and about and I have a long day or a long night or both, if I could get a beer that didn't have alcohol or extremely low alcohol and be able to still keep drinking and keep enjoying the experience around drinking without the alcohol, I would definitely appreciate that from time to time. Just most of them kind of taste like crap. That's my problem. So it's not the non-alcoholic beer, it's the crappy non-alcoholic beer. And we did talk about this a lot. Well, not a lot. We talked about this on this week's episode of the Brew Cast. There's definitely some discussion about it in there of why non-alcoholic beer might be important. Zach says, I feel like that's what all-day IPAs are for. That is part of, that's part of what makes something like all-day IPA work. That's part of the reason I love English Mild so much. They clock in right around 4%. A beer that you can drink more of than, this 10% Pie Bird boysenberry Midwest fruit tart. Sometimes you want one that you can drink a little more of. Joey says, non-alcoholic stuff is nice for weeknights if I'm trying to cut back on alcohol consumption. I like drinking a beer with dinner, or if I can find a good non-alcoholic beer, if it's that need. I kind of agree with that 100%. Kind of, which makes it not 100%. I just have never found that non-alcoholic beer yet that is as good as another beer. If there was, I would drink the crap out of it, though. Zach says, I was always told that non-alcoholic beers are for those who like to drink or who are addicted to drinking but still like the taste of beer, but that's from other people. Yeah, I mean, there are definitely some people that was, especially for years where there wasn't great non-alcoholic beer. There's a lot of other situations where you might find that it could be something that fits in with what you want. It doesn't have to be because you're addicted and you can't not have a beer. I would argue that if you're suffering from some kind of addiction, the last thing you need is something that mimics the thing you're addicted to. Personally, Joey says, I agree. I don't think they'll ever be as good, but they suffice for me. I'm curious if we will get to that point where they start to actually be as good. That Bud 0.0 non-alcoholic beer really, really surprised me, because not only did it actually taste like a light American lager, it is a 0.0. It's not just the 0.5 percent or less. It's nothing, no alcohol, which is really tough to do. I do remember in your podcast saying that you like the Budweiser Zero beer. I don't know that I like it. I was impressed by it. Those very different things. I'm definitely not done talking about non-alcoholic beer. We're exploring and trying to find one that does taste good. It's definitely not something I want to drink all the time, but I don't drink beer because of the alcohol in the beer. It is a part of the flavor profile for sure. Alcohol does add something to that that flavor that is hard to get without it. But if you told me that you could create a beer that that tasted like some of these 10% Midwest fruit tarts, that I could drink 6 of them and not have a bad morning the next day, I would totally go for it. If you shifting gears a little bit, going back to this week's Brewcast, if you listened to the episode, there's some good stuff in there. Not just the non-alcoholic beer discussion, but we dove into some other topics, including a couple hints thrown in there about some of the stuff that Madry is working on that they haven't really talked about yet. That will be very interesting to see how the world around them accepts or rejects it. So listen for some of those hints if you go back and listen to the episode again, or if you haven't listened to it yet, because there's some good stuff. Joey says, I've heard that the Rothaus non-alcoholic Pilsner is the best non-alcoholic beer out there, but I don't think it's distributed in the States. I'm still exploring new ones. There's a chance you may be able to order it. How they're branching out. I took notes, says Julia. Yes. Yeah. They, when we finished the episode, do you think anybody caught on to what we just said? I said, I don't know. Yeah. The next time I sit down and talk to you, I'll fill you in on some of the other stuff that didn't really make the episode, but there's some good stuff coming. I'm always impressed by how they keep evolving. I don't know how well that comes through in the shows that I do with them, but I'm just always entertained by them. Zach says, what's your next go-to style of beer coming? November, since Oktoberfest was last month. I definitely enjoy barrel-aged stouts, or stouts that have Cafe Death and Death's Tar from Revolution. Still enjoy them as I did last year. I don't have really any go-to styles. Well, the next one that I will really latch on to and go heavy with is Bach in the spring. The only time that I go as crazy as I do for Oktoberfest is Oktoberfest. I spend a ton of money buying Oktoberfest beers, more than I spend I probably spend more on beer in the fall here than I do any other time of year. Schwarzbier, I love Schwarzbier, but I'm not going to go around and buy every Schwarzbier around town. To the level that I do Oktoberfest. If I'm out and there's one on tap, I'm probably drinking it. But it's very different than the Oktoberfest Quest. The Oktoberfest Quest is more of an event than it is really how I drink. That's not true. I do drink a lot of Oktoberfest, but I drink more because I do Oktoberfest Quest than I probably would if I didn't do Oktoberfest Quest. I think. I don't know. It doesn't hurt that there's so many great festivals around town for Oktoberfest where beer is served in, liters instead of in, 16-ounce pints. So you consume more. But I will probably, the only other time that you'll see that is Buckfest. Ugh. I drink a lot of Bock beer too. But as Zach says, I'm an all-year stout guy, even though this is the season. I dabble in stouts all year, but I definitely go heavier this time of year than I do any other time. Julia says I need to get to Westside for their blonde coffee stout, and they just released their Schwarzbier as well. I'm a huge Schwarzbier fan. I have some of the volume from Rebel Metal in the fridge that I really want to dive into, but still got a whole bunch of Oktoberfest to knock out. All right, guys, we will wrap things up since I don't know what is happening upstairs right now, and I have to go tend to the family. But stay tuned. This week we have some fun Prost. I don't know exactly which one I'll do, but we've got some fun beers sitting in there that can make it onto Prost. Zach says, "Are you getting any of the Bourbon County brand stout?" No. I shouldn't say no. If I'm with somebody and they pull a bottle out and crack it open, I'll definitely drink it. But no, I'm not hunting it down. I would much rather spend my time and my money going to Dark Charge Day and stocking up on all of the Dark Charge variants and Family Tradition, things like that are around town that are better breweries than Goose is. It's very complicated. It's a complicated relationship with big beer. Thank you guys for hanging out and taking part in another week. Zach wants to know if I will be at Dark Charge Day. Absolutely, I will be at Dark Charge Day. In fact, next week is Builder's Preview, which means that the variants are very close to being announced to the rest of the world. So stay tuned. Everybody have a good week. Get out there and drink some good beer. Next week on the Brew Cast, we are headed back into Hamilton to talk about some of the things that are going on in Hamilton, because there's always something going on in Hamilton. You know how it goes. And hopefully I'll have some new video content out for you. Also, next week we are going to be really cranking out the beers for Beers, Booze, and Bonks. Make sure, if you don't already, it sounds like most of you guys have your tickets, to get your tickets, because this festival is going to be absolutely insane. Coming this week, I'm going to announce that wooden cask beer that we went out to finalize last week, and it was pretty freaking fantastic. I'm really excited about that one. You guys are gonna love it. I think that's one of the ones that we get to name, or we did get to name, if they actually stick with the name that we came up with. It's gonna be good. Thank you guys. If you like this or any of the shows that I do, you guys know how to support. Number one, just share it with somebody else, somebody that you are friends with, that you know loves craft beer and Cincinnati craft beer, and tell them about Cincy Brewcast or the website or the YouTube page or any of that stuff, or even this. I kind of like not having strangers take over this, but if all your friends want to come hang out, let them all come hang out. It's all fun, guys. If you want to help a different way, you can always go to thegnarlygnome.com/support. You can sign up for the Patreon that way, give a couple bucks a month, and it adds up, and it helps me a lot to let this stuff kind of support itself and not have to figure out what I can and what I can't do. So You guys got it. Thank you very much. I appreciate you all very much. And we will be back next week right here on your favorite streaming platform. And yeah, we'll be back. Thank you, guys. Cheers, everybody. I don't live in Hamilton, but I would, I think. I think I would be okay living in Hamilton.